is Haley, a student from ESL class, and right next to me is Professor Linda. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
And today, I'm gonna have a short interview with Linda. It's so glad to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here.
Students want to get to know more about your teachers, so I'm make some questions for you.
Okay.
And the first question is that, how long have you been a teacher?
I've been teaching since 1991, teaching ESL since 1991. And before that, I taught computer software applications.
A computer? Okay, interesting. And because you teach grammar for us, so there are some students in my class, they want to know how could they do to learn better in your class.
Well, some things have to be memorized, like the irregular verbs, things like that. Other things people become better at through fluency, which comes about through a length of time, getting lots of practice talking to people,
Yeah.
hopefully talking to people that will tell them if they're making a mistake until they can eventually correct themselves. Reading is great, especially reading literature or reading newspapers, because you begin to notice the correct grammar that the journalists or the writers are using. And probably listening to the radio. Things like television is great for improving fluency, but people are not necessarily using always the correct grammar. So in terms of grammar, I would recommend more reading.
Reading. So is there some exact book or magazine you will recommend for us, especially for this level?
For enjoyment, books for
For
enjoyment.
study.
For study, well, the textbook that I have the class using now.
Yeah.
Should I put a plug in for Elements? What is it called? Elements of Success. I think
Yeah.
that's a great grammar book. But I said reading is really important, and I think what people should do for reading is to read what they enjoy. Read books about topics that they enjoy, or read magazines that are in the field that they like. If they like fashion, they should read Vogue, right?
Yeah.
If they
That's what I do.
that's what you should do. For reading for enjoyment, it can't be textbooks. It's got to be something that the students are actually interested in. And if they're interested in something, they'll spend more time reading and they'll get better.
Okay, I know. And the next question is that, have you ever gotten some interesting suggestions from your students?
Yes, sometimes in terms of technology, especially because I missed that boat. Students are very aware of a lot of different apps and other websites and things on the in the computer that they have found very helpful. So sometimes people will mention things like that. Sometimes when students do presentations, I find out about software that's like PowerPoint but newer, fancier versions of things like that. So I get that from students because I'm not doing those things myself.
Okay, I understand that. What's your standard of straight A students?
Well, I don't really care about straight A's or any grades. Number one, this is a non-credit program. So I think what's important is learning and improving. Maybe for one student, getting from what might be considered C to B is more important than the actual grade, but just that the improvement that has taken place. So I don't get too concerned about grades. I just get I just care about little incremental bits of improvement.
Have you ever found some difference between students from different countries,
Oh,
especially when they study grammar?
Well, I mean, of course, every student is an individual and has very different ways of dealing with things. But a lot of Chinese students will say, "Well, we know the grammar because that's all we do. So we have to study the grammar, study for the test, right?" But then what happens is because there's very little speaking that goes on in China, they know the grammar, but when they get here and they want to talk and use it, it's a whole different story.
Yeah,
Because
totally different.
Right, they know the way to fill it in, the correct form to fill in the blank on the test, but not how to produce it themselves. Other students who might come from different countries where they have more exposure to spoken English, they might not understand if you say present perfect, but they can actually use it when they're talking because they have heard it more.
Yeah, so for this situation, such as for me, what should I do to improve? To speak aloud?
Speak, yeah. Get as much practice speaking to people, and not just native speakers, because that's not really important, but to speak to other people in English.
Thank you.
And the way students can do that, not everybody has an opportunity to talk with other people because many of our students have to work a lot. A lot of them work in environments where everybody speaks their native language.
Yeah.
So what they should do is sit next to somebody in class who doesn't speak their language, so that the whole 2 hours or however long the class is, they're forced to speak in English.
For our students, we will try that during this break time. I found the question that we are not good speakers, so we can't understand or we can't recognize what kind of mistake you made, or we can't correct each other.
Well, eventually you'll be able to. The thing is to get as much practice speaking and listening to others in English, because let's say the break time, you have 30 minutes to talk to somebody and listen to what they're saying in English. That's definitely much better than sitting with someone who speaks your language and talking to them for 30 minutes, right? So even if you make mistakes, you're still practicing, you're still hearing English being spoken by someone else.
We will continue to that. And sometimes I heard you mention some celebrities in class. So we will talk about our teacher.
Well,
she is familiar with celebrities.
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 Yeah. If you've lived in New York a long time, like I have, you just are going to come across a lot of celebrities. Just walking down the street, in restaurants, it just happens all the time. It's not like I have friends who are celebrities, but I have seen and spoken to lots and lots of different people over the years. But I guess the most famous person that I don't know, but I've spoken to is Bruce Springsteen, because we went to school together. I never talked to him then. He was in 8th grade. I was in 1st. But somebody in town used to give parties when we were in high school, and he used to be the band, or his band used to be the entertainment, is what I should say. And he hangs out at the Jersey Shore in the same place that I go to in the summertime, and sometimes we see him there.
Meet each other.
Well, not me and him, but he's there and we see him. So that's my claim to fame, that I went to school with Bruce Springsteen. And I recently saw him in concert on Broadway, and I was in the first row. So that was really fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the last question is that you say that you have been living in New York City for a long time. So, what's your favorite place in New York City?
Oh, wow. there's so many places that I like.
Mhm.
I used to like the High Line when it first opened and for the first couple of years, but now I think it's too crowded and there's too much building and it's kind of lost the sense of nature because they put all those glass buildings around it. So I could no longer say that, although that used to be my favorite. Um, I guess really any of the parks because when you live in a city, you just are starved for green space. So for Central Park and Riverside Park, um, uh, Tyrone Park, and further like past at the end of Manhattan, it's really beautiful up there.
So, what time will you spend in park?
Oh,
Early
on the weekends.
on the weekend?
Oh, and I also like the botanical gardens, the New York Botanical Garden in the Bronx, and the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. Those are two places that I go to a lot because they're very beautiful.
Because yesterday, Mr. Earl also recommended Central Park to me. He said, yeah, you can see free concert, free Shakespeare show in summertime.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really
great.
exciting and it's also free, so it's suitable for our students.
Yeah.
And then I still remember the first day I came to your class. I noticed that you wear all green clothes, and especially your necklace is also green. And the second weekend, I noticed that you wear blue clothes, deep blue pants and blue necklace. So I'm think that wow, what a fashion teacher she is. Yeah. So I want to know how do you define fashion?
Oh, well, I think everybody defines fashion
Yeah.
in their own way. My friends always make fun of me because things match, right? And I always think, well, if I'm gonna get dressed, put something on and go out, why shouldn't it match, right? It would be very strange for me to put on something that doesn't match.
Yeah, same to me.
And I'm very conscious of color, very sensitive to color. So I like everything to be colors that complement each other, including the jewelry.
It looks like the vintage style I saw recently is became popular. I noticed that.
Yeah, so that's why they say never throw anything out because it will come back into style again.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.